welcoming everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We've got a nice little group that's come to join us, hopefully from far and wide. And if you wish to have your screen on, have your screen on. If you want to have your screen off, have your screen off. The reason that we're recording it is because we want to be able to share it with people who aren't able to make it right here and now. So the focus will be all on Rachel, and then at the end of it we'll switch the camera off, and anyone who wants to interact, ask any questions or whatever, then that's your time to really, find out as much as we can from our wonderful expert. We're very, very grateful that you've given us the time today for this. And as I said, it will be recorded and we'll put it on our community hub on our website, so that any bits that if you're like me with brain fog, any bits you've forgotten and you'd like to see again, or if someone else said, oh, I'd love to see that, you can share the link with them and they can watch it as well. The reason for asking Rachel was we did an evening support, Linda and I did. Linda's, for those that don't know, Linda's our CEO. She's the founder of Salus Fatigue Foundation. And we did a support group, and I just happened to mention that I like swimming, and these other two people said, I'm interested in doing it. How do you go about, what's the benefits of it, particularly for people with fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue or ME? And so we thought, right, let's get someone in who knows a little bit more than me going once a week in a very quick swim in a cold lake. So welcome to Rachel, and welcome to everybody else that's here with us. And if you want to keep yourself on mute for now, just in case there are dogs that bark or doorbells that ring, that would be much appreciated. And as I said, then afterwards, we'll pause the recording and give those that are here live the chance to interact as well. So I'm going to say thank you very much and hand over to Rachel.
Hi Ed, thanks ever so much for having me. I was so thrilled when Jane approached me for the Salus Foundation, and she asked me to come and talk about outdoor swimming. Now, I don't have a chronic fatigue or any other kind of chronic issues that I'm dealing with for in terms of outdoor swimming. I'm purely an outdoor swimmer, and I thought I'd take you through that and how to get into it. The only thing I will say is I am suffering a slight brain fog because in between being asked and now I've been struck with COVID, so just struggling to stay awake sometimes, to be honest. So just coming back. I'm definitely getting better from it, but yeah, if I lose my thread, that might happen. The other thing that might happen is, you mentioned barking dogs. When my husband comes home at lunchtime, the dog is likely to go crackers for a couple of minutes, so we might hear a little bit of barking, but hopefully not. What I'm going to do now is try and share my screen, so we'll get on and see how that goes. And this is the game of having a couple of screens on the go. It makes it a little bit tougher. There we go. Okay, so I just dive straight into it. I'm hoping that people can see that. Could someone just let me know if you can see that, because I can no longer see you at all on my screen.
I can't see it, Rachel.
Okay, just bear with.
Yeah, I can't see a screen share either. It might be my fault because you pop back in. No, you should be able to.
Okay, let's give that another go. Hang on a second. It also is likely to be my fault with the double screen situation.
We'll get there. We always get there.
We will get there. I mean, this was working a second ago, so I'm not quite sure why it's not at the moment.
Don't let me get involved, because it'll all definitely go wrong.
Right, let's see how this will
go. It looks.
Yay.
Are we looking a little bit more like we've got part of my screen?
We've got action, yeah.
Oh, and I've just seen where all of the controls were that I couldn't find earlier as well. This is a dream come true. All right, then let's get straight on with it. So a little bit of an introduction to outdoor swimming then. And that is a picture I took of a friend of mine just down by the marshes in Lymington. So I'm based on the south coast, near to the New Forest, and I pretty much swim anywhere I can find the water. So I thought I'd kick off. I was going to cover a few bits. I was going to talk about how I got into the outdoor side of things, what the water means to me, a little bit about how I like to share that passion, and and then I'll do some stuff about how to get into it, the kind of things that you need, and also the safety side of things. So those are sort of areas we're going to cover. So just kicking off really then with my swim journey. I've been swimming in any bits of water I can get into since I don't know, for as long as I can remember. You know, I'd be the first in the water when we went on holidays down to Cromer and Sheringham when I was a kid. You know, even at Easter, I'd be down in the sea at Bognor. I've always been one of those people that you look and just think, you know, people will make all sorts of comments and say, I don't know why you're getting or how you're getting or what you're doing in that water, but I just love it. So I hadn't really done anything serious with it, just in and out the water on holidays for quite a long time. And actually I'd been off sick for a little while because I'd had, it's going to sound dramatic, I had an accident on my motorbike from pretty much stationary. I fell off my bike when I was turning it around and damaged my shoulder. And so I'd had my arm in a sling, and it was my first day back at work where I was able to use my arm again to drive myself into the office. And a friend came in, and it was her first day back from maternity leave. And she said, you know what, Rach, I wondered if you might be up for an adventure. And I will always say yes to that question, pretty much without question. And she said to me, I was thinking of doing this thing down in the West Country. It's called the Dark 10K. Do you fancy it? I said, well, it's in a river, yeah? It's swimming 10K in a river. All right, well, that sounds like quite a big ask. Today's the first day I've been able to straighten my arm enough to drive. It's April and that's in September. I'll tell you what, when I next go into the consultant, I'll just ask them and see what they say. So when I did, I popped in and I said to the consultant, would I be able to do some long distance swimming? And he said, oh, I don't think you'll be able to do that. I said, will I make the injury worse? He said, oh, no, you won't make it worse. It will just be unbelievably painful. I thought, well, that's his opinion on my levels of pain tolerance. Let's see how we go. So I thought, well, I'll sign up. I'll get a last minute ticket into it and I'll see how I get on. And so in I got in doing lots and lots of swimming in the pool to start with, and then I morphed to outside. And during that time outside, it was all about training. Everything I was doing was about trying to get distance and things. And I found that while I was in there, actually, from the consultant telling me that it would be unbearably painful, actually, it was the only time that my shoulder felt comfortable was when I was in the water. Even though I was moving it hundreds of strokes at a time, it felt comfortable. And I thought, God, there's something in this. I really, not only am I likely to be able to get far enough to train to do this, I'm also going to maybe rehabilitate my shoulder while I'm at it. What a bonus. So yeah, so I went along, I did the swim, fantastic time. It was great to join a big event and just to sort of feel the community and the atmosphere around outdoor swimming, as well as almost a festival type atmosphere when you got to the end. It was super, super supportive. I've done quite a few different sports in my time and got involved in lots of different activities. But this is one where I just felt there's so much acceptance and so much love within the community. It's just absolutely lovely. So that made me think, well, I fancy doing that again. But in the meantime, I then kind of got a bit more of an idea about, well, I found it difficult to get back in after doing 10K, raise some money for charity, brilliant. Getting back into the water to do some more though was quite difficult. And so I almost had a break over that winter, but then since then I've probably swum right through for the last, I don't know, 5 years or something. So that's a sort of little bit of a roundup. I do all sorts of swimming, and you'll see as you go through some of these images, the sorts of stuff that I get it up to and what inspires me to keep going. So a little bit then on what the water means to me. So I've got these 3 pictures here. So on the left-hand side, I'm this is actually a work trip, and I finished work that day. I'd been doing some training with some people, and then I just went off to find myself somewhere to go and have a bit of a dip. And I was thrilled to find, and Linda did mention she doesn't like getting in water that you can't see into. You'll notice there, Linda, if you look close at that picture, you can see the bottom the whole time. So there is open water out there for everyone to be able to see right down. The next one is a 10K that I did last year, which proved to be quite a mental battle. Having done 10K several times before, I tried to do one a year to give myself something to aim for and give myself the motivation to keep getting in and doing some fitness and training over the summer. But that one, I expected there to be some flow because it was on a river. That was the Jubilee River. And I'd looked at, I realized it's a runoff of the Thames around Windsor. And I'd kind of looked on Google Earth, everything people say about the place. Oh yeah, it's great. But I got myself into the wrong start group because I'd booked it 2 years before through COVID. And consequently, rather than being in a group that was swimming about the same pace as me, I probably was 2 groups too high. So everyone swam through me. The next, I don't know, 8 or 9 waves of people just swam right through me. So at times I was totally on my own, looking around. Well, I wasn't worried for my safety or anything, but I was kind of vacillating between being bored and thinking that at the next time we get out and have to walk past a weir, I might just walk back to the car. So it was a real mental battle that I just hadn't expected. I did eventually make it to the end, and I had a chat to someone at just before the last leg, and they perked my spirits right up. But when I made a video of that one, I'd run out of batteries and was feeling too mardy to do anything about it. So I had to do a bit of an explanation on that video. And then the next one is again a cheeky work trip. This is me getting up early before work to head down to go and have a little swim just over in Anglesey. So whenever there's an opportunity, whether it's that I'm going to train for something and it's planned a long time in advance, or I spot a bit of water from the car window even sometimes, I'm really tempted to get in. So I guess, what does the water mean to me? Well, as you heard there, from the injury I sustained and then training through, it represents kind of freedom and support. I absolutely love it when you get in the water. It feels immediately like, I get an immediate feeling of safety, to be honest, bobbing away there, just even if it's only in waist deep water, just bobbing about and really just letting the water take the strain pretty much. I don't even know how to describe that really. It's a kind of weightlessness and also a really calm feeling. Even if it's quite wavy and it's bumping up and down, it's still a really calm feeling. I just feel at one with the water. It's just absolutely lovely. And I just happened to take this picture through the water because sometimes the water just fascinates me, looking into it, looking at the bubbles coming across. It doesn't half encourage you to improve your stroke when you've got your goggles on, you can look and see the bubbles and things. Maybe not looking forwards, that's not so great on the stroke, but it's just beautiful in the water. This is seawater. And then again, here, I just love the shapes, the colors, everything about it. It just is a chance for my mind to relax and for any worries that I've got to at least be parked. I don't think they're dissolved. That would be really nice. I'd probably live in the water if that happened. But it just gives an opportunity for me to just be in the water and be super present. You can't really, I might have some technology with me in terms of maybe a camera or something, but people can't phone me. There's nobody, you might be there with a friend and maybe you're going to have a little bit of a chat, but really it's you and the big world. I just like the feeling of seeing where you fit into the world. You're just in a small thing bobbing in a huge vast piece of water. It's not often that you get to feel that feel your size in comparison to the to nature, but certainly getting in the water or being near it gives you that. The other thing I like is that you get to get in close to nature and get a real good look at it. This is just on the Thames at Henley. And yeah, you just have an opportunity to be in and amongst it and to see the birds kind of doing their own thing. This is a bit false in that I've taken it from the side, but when I'm swimming in the sea, especially early morning, you're seeing the birds in their own habit, just flying over you. Some are going one way, some are going in a big formation. Yeah, I feel like I'm in a David Attenborough documentary when I'm that close into it all and having a look. And there's a stork. I like it when the stork or the heron is stood on the side. And I almost challenge myself to be able to get into the water without disturbing it. And often that happens if it's just me down the beach, or maybe me and one other. You can often creep in quiet enough that you just don't disturb it and it carries on with its thing. And then you can look at it from the water, which is just amazing. This is an early morning one where, you know, just the chance to get out and have a quiet chat with someone and really just sharing time in nature. The other thing it's brought is lots of friendship. So the friend in this picture behind me there, where we're just floating about near to the port of Southampton, we're just by Ealing there. We just decided we were going to do this swim because we fancied seeing the boats from a different angle. We had planned it well, don't worry, it wasn't too sketchy and no one arrested us, so we're all good with that one. But it's a chance to share an experience with a friend, and you find out that your friends are more adventurous than you had them down for, maybe, and that they're much more up for it. You almost egg each other on to go and do some different stuff. This is the two of us after we'd finished a day's work. We thought we'd just try and squeak in a little swim just by Bath. This is Whalley Weir. So you've got us in the water with as many clothes on as possible because we've swum down the river from Dundas Aqueduct. And then weirdly, if you've never been here, this is something that's definitely worth visiting. Whalley Weir, just by the outskirts of Bath, that's actually a public footpath that you can see underwater. It's the weir. You walk across the weir and carry on in various states of dress or undress, I guess. But we'd swum up to that one. First time I'd seen it, really fascinating place. And then just, yeah, encouraging your friends to come out and get a bit of a break. This is a friend and I went for a kind of swim break. We just got a tent each and we went away for a night. And it felt like we'd been on a whole holiday. We just went and swam around a couple of places on the Dorset coast, and it was just beautiful. But yeah, it's all about the adventure and being able to another work trip here up in Glen Etive in Scotland. Just the opportunity to get in and have a bob in the water. As I say, it melts away any stress I've got and sets me up for either at the end of the day, so I sleep really well afterwards, or this was just before breakfast. I just asked the B&B to give me a pack up rather than having it there, and took it along before I had a decent drive. And then, of course, if there's a cave, why wouldn't you want to get into it and have a little look in there? As you can see, a very flat day. I wouldn't go in there if there was any waves. That would be a bit more hectic. But again, very, very see-through water, and you can look right down and see the starfish and all sorts on the floor. It's really beautiful. So being able to have that fish-eye view of nature, frog's eye view, I'm not quite sure, maybe it's a duck's eye view, but being able to see from the water just gives you a totally different perspective. Looking back at the beach, you notice things about the place that you might not have seen before, and you wouldn't necessarily see if you're close up right next to it. And this is Hordle Cliff on the Hampshire coast, where I went at the weekend. So that's what I like to do. That's what really inspires me, and that's what I love about outdoor swimming. So I thought I'd take you through how to get out and have a little bit of that yourselves. So let's go on an adventure. there are so many different ways of getting involved in outdoor swimming. You don't have to be a super serious swimmer or anything. According to Laura McDonald, who does the Wild Women podcast, she breaks it down into 4. She says there's dippers, swimblers, serious swimmers, and athletes. I don't know if that's true. You know, nobody really needs to sit in a category, because I'd guess I'm every single one of those, as you've seen from the pictures just before. But what it does say is that just hopping into the water and having a float for 30 seconds, a couple of minutes, that can be enough. It doesn't need to be. When I first started, I thought it was all about getting in and putting in the distance like you would in the pool. Otherwise, what's the point? And you just have to kind of shake that idea out of yourself to be thinking, oh, is there really any point to getting all my stuff out wet and then being in the water for less time than it took me to get there? There's so many things that could put you off. But actually, every single time you get in the water, it is a valuable experience, whether it's just to go, oh, that's the coldest I've ever been in. At least I managed to get my breath. I've had a nice time, but I think I'll get out and drink my hot cup. Or whether it's with the swimbling, whether you're just going to go for a little swim down a river with a friend or two and just take it all in. I must admit, I really do love a swimble where you get to go in and go with the flow of the water. So I'm not saying there's no effort, but there's quite a lot less effort, and it's not super strenuous. It's something that, especially if you've got a car at either end, you can really minimize the physical effort. If walking's not something, walking a distance, or, hiking isn't something that you fancy, you can almost do the hike by swimming it, just getting in and drifting down on the current somewhere. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. Then you've got your serious swimmers, and sometimes I'm one of those. Sometimes I'm in there because I'm training. And so this time of year, I'll start to ramp that up. It's not quite warm enough yet for me to be really pushing on. It's about, 12 or 13 degrees in the water at the moment in the sea, probably a little bit less inland, but it will gradually heat up. And actually in the summer, it gets to where I swim in the Solent mostly. In August, it can be up to 19 or 20 degrees, which I think would be pretty surprising to most people. It really can be quite warm. And then you've got your athletes, and these are maybe the people that are competing. I mean, I do call myself the everyday athlete as for my YouTube channel, Everyday Athlete Rach. But that's just to say, really, anybody can do something athletic in terms of getting in and doing an activity. We don't need to be Usain Bolt or Michael Phelps or any of these other paid sponsored athletes to be taking part in things. There's lots of there are lots of events and get-togethers that you can take part in, and you don't need to be the fastest. It's barely ever about the winning. And in actual fact, on most of these, everybody gets a medal or a badge or something at the end of it. So it's more about the activity and the experience and taking part. So what do I need then? What equipment do I need to get going? If you're already starting to think about, if I've tickled your interest a little bit, okay, number one, I would say potentially this could be optional, but a swimming costume. There are places you can go and swim without, but I would say maybe on the first experience of going outdoor swimming, probably as well wearing something, because the likelihood is you're with people you don't know as well. So a swimsuit of some description. It doesn't even have to be a swimsuit. It could be leggings and like gym leggings and a long sleeved t-shirt type thing, because that clothing is not going to drag you under. It's about what you're comfortable in to get in the water. So something to wear to get wet in. You also, I would strongly suggest having some kind of a hat, a silicone hat to make sure that you're visible when you are in the water. So, people can see you if they're in the water as well, but also somebody who might be watching you from the beach can see you easily by spotting your bright coloured hat. Next thing you need, I'm sure you got one of these at home, a towel of some description. almost the scraggier the better, to be honest, because it's just going to get dropped on the floor, left on a beach, hung up on a tree, goodness knows what. But you don't need a super spangly towel, you just need the one out of the cupboard. Next thing I would say, and it could be slightly more testing to have this, is something to put on your feet to get in the water. I almost never get in the water without something on my feet. And that's because I want to make sure that when I go to get out, and speed at that stage is of the essence, that nothing is going to be a problem. I'm not going to have to pick my way across pebbles on a beach. But also when I get into the water, you might not be able to see what's under, what's under the surface. Normally, as you're getting in ankle deep and that you can see, but as you go a little bit further in, you don't want to be standing on something that's sharp. Sadly, there are sometimes bits of things in the water that might hurt your feet. So I will always wear something on my feet, and you could go with a pair of old trainers, anything really. Lots of the kind of cut price supermarkets with their Isle of Dreams have some kind of footwear. I tend to use a pair of neoprene shoes, which have got a rubber sole on them. You might be able to see there, just to protect my feet and give myself that little bit of extra protection, because just getting a sore foot that just hampers everything, doesn't it? So there's just no need for it when you can wear something on your feet. If you get into it and you think, oh, I really enjoy this, but do you know what? It was just so miserably cold on my hands. Well, none of us are too proud to be saying, I won't wear some gloves. So I've got a pair of gloves, and I wear, I think the first time this year I went in without them was at the weekend. But if I was going in for a bit longer, I'd have worn them. But they make a massive difference. Having something on your feet, something neoprene on your feet and your hands, just makes that whole experience so much better. It really is just, it's really surprising the difference it makes. I went for the whole year. The first year I did it without them, and having had a break in the November, I just couldn't face getting back in because my hands and feet, I was like, oh, it's going to be so cold. And I was under the mistaken I mistakenly thought that if my hands were covered, then I wouldn't know how cold I was getting. But I tell you what, you certainly know how cold you're getting. It's better off doing it by a time. At this time of year, the time we can spend in gets longer, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But don't be put off. If you're thinking about, oh, I really think I should have something on hands and feet, do it. If you're comfortable, do it. That's what the experts say. The experts in cold water survival say that. So I'm with them on that one. The very last thing you need is a very expensive, exclusive shopping bag of some description to put your stuff on the beach. Almost the cheaper looking, the better, because then no one's going to try and mess with it. If it's got handles, all the better. You can hang it up off the floor, perhaps. Depends on the kind of beach or place that you're at. But I will often hang mine off a tree branch or something, just to make sure any little doggies don't want to get too interested in it. Or I'm not so worried about the interest, but I am a little bit more concerned if they have a pee on it. So just having your kit somewhere and somewhere easily accessible, and it's all about using the stuff you've already got. You don't need to go out and buy loads of stuff. If you see on in these Facebook groups about how to go outdoor swimming and out, the different groups on there, lots of people ask, what's the minimum equipment I need? And oh my God, that is a can of worms, because you could be saying goggles, you could be talking about a wetsuit, you could be talking about all sorts of different things. There is loads of kit you could have, but the bare minimum is what I've talked about there. If you're going to swim somewhere a bit more exposed with more traffic, then something like a tow float is certainly useful, and that's a bag that actually you can put your stuff in. I always swim with a tow float because then I can carry my kit with me. I don't need to worry about the dogs, and I can also get out whenever I want to because I've got my stuff with me. So that's the sort of stuff that you need for the very basics to get going. Let's have a little look now about actually how to get into it. So it could be that you are thinking about swimming, you'd like to swim with a group, meet some friends. This is the Boston Blue Tits up in Lincolnshire. So I went home at Christmas, and it's a Facebook group where I'd never met anybody. I joined the group and I said, are you doing anything Christmas Eve? Because I fancy coming along. And then a group, I think by the end of it, there were maybe about 30 or 40 people. Some people, it was their first time in, which I did think was quite brave, because that was chilly, as you might be able to see from the expression on my face. That was a cold swim. But there are lots and lots of places that you can get involved. So there are pay for venues, and you can find them via the via an app that I haven't got the name of. I can't for the life of me think why they would make an app that has a name you can barely remember, but it's something like Wild Open Water Swim app. But I'll give Jane the link. And that has lots of different venues. So you'd almost be able to find your closest swim spot by going on there. It's got a map feature and it can show you all sorts of different stuff. You can do a huge search. It's really good. It's crowdsourced. So if you know of any that aren't on there, then it's worth also adding that and joining up. There's lots of different venues. There are places where you can go, places that are run by a company called Nauka. They kind of recognize different sites. There's likely to be facilities like showers, maybe a shop, maybe a coffee shop, some changing rooms and that sort of thing. They might also have some people who will be there to do coaching. So yeah, paid for venues. These kind of groups. You've also got some groups which are starting to form up. There's lots of different ones online. So you may well have heard of the Blue Tits. I think they started as a Facebook group, and they have grown up all around the country. Lots of different groups coming together. Facebook, there's probably one on every street corner nearly. There are certainly, I would have thought there is a swim group for every county, and almost many towns have got them as well. There's lots and lots. It's certainly worth looking on there and putting in your area and swimming and seeing what comes up. And then there's a couple of other ones. We've got mental health swims. I recently became a host for mental health swims, and that is a free for users, where you will just go along and you join the group. Probably each group does one per month. And they've got when you go onto mentalhealthswims.co.uk, you can find the swim map, and on there you can obviously search for your closest one. And then it will give you, and it's mostly centered around Instagram. So then you can find out where your closest one is, and then you can see the feeds that are going on with the different groups. And actually from their website, you can also see when the next swims are for particular groups too. And then you book through their website, just so that the host knows how many people they're expecting and doesn't kind of dive off. The nice thing about that is they have, here's one I remembered I've got earlier. The host will have a big flag, a pink pirate flag. And the idea behind that is that the flag is flying at the venue, which for me is just a beach. And so you don't have that awkwardness of turning up knowing that you wanted to join the group and go for a swim, and not knowing who to approach. The host is the one who's got one of those massive flags, so you can't miss them, and they're expecting you. So just rocking up, have a chat. And it's a host rather than a coach. So the person who is hosting is just there to facilitate it. They'll say when we're getting in the water, and they'll also say, okay, we're all hop out now. And it's an opportunity just to meet with people and go for a swim. And yeah, people will go for that to all sorts of different reasons, whether it be to meet people, to test out what they've seen in the media about outdoor swimming and its and how good it is for mental health. But that's one of these big groups. And then at the bottom there, I've got bluetonic.org.uk. That's a charity which is all about getting people out into blue spaces, whether that's in, on, around water. It's based on the Blue Mind book by, can't remember his name, I'll give you that one, Jane, later. I'm kind of halfway through reading at the moment, but it's all about how, because we come from water, we are 70% water ourselves, that actually when we're in water, we are very much in water. We are at one with it, because it is not far off being the same as us. And so it's all about the benefits of either sitting and looking at, being near to, or even just listening. There's there's so many benefits to being in and around water, and it's worth taking a little look at that for some ideas about some things you might want to get in and do. The other thing you could do if you'd like to get involved with outdoor swimming, but you are feeling a little bit nervous about it, is you could engage a coach. So I've got a directory there, which is the swim directory for the Outdoor Swimmer magazine, where coaches can just, they send their details and end up on that list. And so a coach will take anything for complete beginners, anything from 1 to 4 people at a time, and do a gentle introduction. So it's a kind of cushioned and safe introduction to getting into the water. And it's all about making sure that you're feeling at ease, and they're there to help you with that and to ease you into the experience. So if you are worried about the fact you can't see what's underneath you, if you're worried about what might be in and around you, if there's any kind of concern about accessibility, then speaking with a coach might well help in terms of getting that first experience in the water. So once you've decided that you're going to go and you've got your swimmers and you're ready to go, whether you're going with, I would recommend that you swim with someone else, or at the very least, if you're going to swim just off the beach, that you've got someone on the beach who's taking a look at you and can check in on you and is watching what you're up to. So thinking safety then, first of all, make sure we tell someone where you're going for that swim, maybe send them a pin and tell them when you've got out, because that's the only person who knows where you are, and they know where you were supposed to be and how long you were going to be. So make sure you've got that in the background. Getting out, seems odd to say that before everything else, but I will not get into some water unless I absolutely know how I'm going to be getting out of it, because there's no point in getting in, then finding myself tired or cold or something, and then there's some kind of a hectic struggle to get out of the water. I need to be sure that it's going to be that I know what I'm taking on to get out. Mostly for me, that will be strolling down the beach and strolling back up the beach, but sometimes it's a little bit more involved than that. But it's as well knowing how involved and thinking about how much energy you're going to need for that. Visibility, making sure that that other people can see you, whether it's other people on the water. There's lots of people sharing that water space, whether that be boats, people on personal watercraft or paddle boarders, or other swimmers. But the other thing is being able to be seen from the shore. So in this shot, you can see I've got a fairly bright hat on, and I've also got my tow float there. So if anybody was looking for me, or anybody was looking out to spot things not to bump into in the water, they would hopefully see me. It's a little bit more testy if it's really wavy, but hopefully if it's really wavy, we're staying fairly close to the beach and not in a zone where there might be some boats. Easy does it. So as we go to get in, first thing I would say is just, my method is always to walk into about waist deep and then just to gently duck in to my neck. I definitely wouldn't put my head in straight away. So when I get into the water, then I'm not going to do any swimming. So I know I'm only in waist deep, so I could stand back up if I'm really uncomfortable. But I'm just going to bob there and just get my breath. So to start with, that is quite difficult. It takes a little bit of time. So just to make sure I'm not putting any extra stress through my body, I'm just going to hang in the water and float, or just have my toes resting on the floor, and just get that breathing under control. Once my breathing's under control, then I can have a little bit of a swim. And if it's the first swim, we're not going to go for very long at all. We're just going to do, I don't know, a few minutes. At this time of year, it could be a little bit longer than that. But I would say you're much better off getting out quicker rather than earlier rather than later, because it's easier to get changed when you're warm enough than if you suddenly get the shakes and you feel freezing. Swimming close to the shore is a big one as well. I will always swim parallel to the shore and never swim out. I mean, I'll swim a little bit out, so I'm not, you know, having to go around people who are just stood in shallows. But rather than fixating on needing to swim to something and back, in a coastal location, I'll always swim along the shore, because that means if I get too cold or tired or whatever, I can just get to, I can, you know, just turn one way or the other, get to the side and walk back to my clothes. So it's not a big deal. If I've swum outwards, apart from the fact I'm ending up in deeper water and further out where boats and other things might not be expecting there to be a swimmer, I've also, no matter what, got to swim it back to get out. So I'm committed. I said about this one, don't stay in too long. So just a few minutes, regulate your breathing, have a little bit of a swim about and get out. Less than 10 degrees, I wouldn't stay in for more than 10 minutes, but it doesn't equate to a minute per degree. That's just been debunked, but I generally wouldn't stay in for more than 10 minutes in that. So as we're warming up now, I would stay in a little bit longer. So cold water, just to kind of put some numbers on it, cold water is 15 degrees or under, which is most of the UK most of the time. Very cold water is under 10 degrees. And then people who are training and doing ice swimming, that is in water that is under 5 degrees. And that's, to be fair, that's pretty unpleasant. Hope there's not too many ice swimmers listening. I've done a bit of swimming when it's really cold, but wow, that is survival. I'm not doing much nature watching then. I'm just thinking about where is my cup of tea that I'm having after this. So making sure that we stay warm enough and we get out quick enough. And then once we're out, much as the person on the beach walking their dog who goes, oh, you're mad, or oh, was it nice in there? Was it cold? Whatever question they're asking you, they like to engage you in a conversation when you're stood there in virtually nothing. As politely as you can, ignore them, get your clothes on, then have the conversation. Or sometimes I've had to get dressed while people are talking to me and they're like, oh, blimey. And they're like, well, yeah, you're in my changing room. So getting dressed quickly is absolutely of the essence. Once we're dressed, having a warm drink. I always take one of those kind of chili bottles, you know, the thermal bottles, and I normally have hot squash in it, to be honest, with about maybe half of it with water from the kettle and the rest with water out the tap. Otherwise you get out thinking you need a warm drink and burn your mouth straight away, so have to be careful with that. So that's pretty much an introduction to it, yeah, ready to take some questions. I guess that the only thing I'll mention there is I have a YouTube channel called Everyday Athlete Rach, on which I try to put across my passion for outdoor swimming and try to encourage people to get involved safely. The videos I make are kind of a combination of coming along on an adventure with me or explaining something. Like last week, I tested a wetsuit hiring company. So before committing to having to buy a wetsuit, you can actually hire them for a couple of weeks, 4 weeks or a season. And that's a really good way to try on a piece of kit that, to be honest, the wetsuit they sent me that I tested would probably have been about 350 quid to buy. And there's no way I'm going to dash that amount on a wetsuit, especially as a lot of the time I swim skins in swimwear. So yeah, I try to open up the doors on outdoor swimming and try to make it as accessible as possible. And I think it was one of my videos that Jane had seen, which is how come I got invited along. So I've talked for a long time there and I can see time's ticking on. I wondered if anyone had any questions. I'm going to attempt to not share my screen now. Let's see how we go.
Yeah, thank you for that. I highly recommend your YouTube channel.
Thank you.
If you can't even get into some cold water, be it like me, sometimes it's your dipping tub in the garden, be it the cold shower, or be it the swim or wherever it is. if you can't do that, but you want some of that lift that some of those photos probably gave you, if you're anything like me, watching those photos gave me a lift. The YouTube channel, particularly that involved goat yoga as well as the open water swim, I thought was just such a great lift. I've loved those. I love listening to the sound of you pulling back through the water. Yeah, I think without actually being in water, you're the next closest thing to making us feel like we are in water. So if anyone's got any questions, please either drop them into the chat box or take yourself off mute and ask away, or do a hand raise or whatever. Okay, so we've got Damien has got his hand up there, and then we know Tamsin is going to ask something as well. So Damien, over to you.
Yeah, so I mean, like